Hello, everyone, and welcome to another program of Huracán D. Today, we're going to continue the second part of the program we initiated last week that we were talking about the most shocking scandals in boxing history. We're going to talk today about the Don King's Ring magazine scandal. Don King seized the opportunity to start the United States Boxing Championships in 1976 when America was celebrating its bicentennial and the U.S. Olympics boxing team was just scored 5 gold medals. King sold the idea of the United States Boxing Championship tournament to ABC to broadcast. The tournament would be filled with bums and journeymen that needed validation. That's where the Ring magazine came in. The Ring's rankings were bought by King, who recognized that the Ring had been dropping its subscriptions every year since 1962. Ring got the publicity of Big Don King tournament, and Don King got his fighters the validation they needed in order to market and justify his events. Deep investigative reporting from boxing journalists who grew suspicious of the death of quality opposition in these bouts exposed King. Soon, word that at least 11 fighters participating in the tournament had falsified records got out, and ABC became worried. After a participant in the tournament came clean about many of the fights being rigged to give victories to fighters who had contracts with King, ABC finally canceled the tournament. King would let some of his associates receive the legal blowback as he escaped and scattered. Some say the scandals hurt Ring's credibility so bad that the WBC and the WBA sanctioning bodies were given more power and authority from the incident, thus the latter creation of the IBF and WBO. The second scandal, it's Jake LaMotta takes a dive for the mob. In 1947, Jake LaMotta was a great boxer on the rise, but he was looking for a greater rise and favor with the mob. The mob controlled boxing and wanted LaMotta to take a dive against Billy Fox for an extra $20,000 and guaranteed title shot against Frenchman Marcel Cerdan. LaMotta tried to hit him, and Fox's knees went weak. LaMotta carried him in what increasingly became an obvious fix. By round 4, the fix was obvious, and LaMotta lay against the ropes to allow the light-hitting Fox to pounce on him. Fox was awarded the 4th round TKO. LaMotta was awarded his promised 20 grand and little shot, as well as an investigation from the FBI years later. Another one, it's Emily Griffith pummels Benny the Kid, parried to death on live television. The Kid parried were welterweight, 147 pounds rivals, trading the World Championship back and forth through their first 2 fights, only to settle the score on March 24, 1962. The fight was televised nationally on ABC and was fought in the famous Madison Square Garden. The fight was a competitive one until round 12, when Griffith knocked Parrott into the ropes. Griffith hit Parrott 20 times, with Parrott becoming unconscious during the end of the exchange. As a result, many networks ended their national broadcasts of boxing until the Ali Fraser era of the 1970s. Griffith's and Parrott's story are chronicled in the amazing documentary Ring of Fire. The event represented a shift in how the sport stopped its fights, with referees becoming increasingly safety conscious with each passing decade. Luis Ernesto ends boxing career of undefeated fighter by using illegal pads. That's another scandal. And defeating Billy Collins Jr. was a junior middleweight prospect on his way up. Luis Ernesto was a light punching journeyman. Resto beat Collins' eyes shut and his skin purple and blue. Collins suffered a torn iris and his vision was forever blurred. Collins could no longer fight. Collins' father, a trainer Collins Sr., went up to shake Resto's hand out of sportsmanship, only to be overcome with rage at how thin Resto's gloves was. He demanded the gloves be impounded. Resto's padding had been removed, and Resto himself admitted years later that his hand wraps had been soaked in plaster of Paris, a substance that hardens into plaster casts. Collins began drinking and became violent without boxing in his life. He would later drive his car into a cement wall in 1984, ending his life at the age of 22. Resto and his trainer, Panama Lewis, were banned for life from the sport. Resto served 2.5 years in prison for assault, while boxing suffered a tragedy that shows just how dangerous cheating can be in this sport. And that's everything for today's program. We received a request from one of our fans to investigate and talk about the Melito Williams scandal. So for next week, we promise that we're bringing this. We're going to talk about this during the whole program. So tune up for the Melito Williams scandal next Thursday at the same time.